Hey everybody, and welcome back to another reading from Dork Diaries. So, the last place that we were, Nikki, our main character, was working with Zoe and Chloe to start to expand their little tattoo business. Of course, Nikki only wanted to give tattoos to Chloe and Zoe, and of course, these are tattoos with a little pen. But now they're looking to get more donations, more books for National Library Week. So we'll see what happens. We left off on page 222. We are very close to finishing. So, finally, Zoe caught on. Oh, that sign-up sheet, of course. She gazed at Jason and giggled nervously. Zoe whipped out her notebook, tore out a sheet of paper, scribbled tattoo sign-up sheet across the top, and handed it to Chloe. Chloe added the words "book donation required, new or used" in big bold letters and gave it to Jason. I was shocked and appalled to see Chloe and Zoe lying like that. I always felt honesty was a very important quality in a friend. Jason scrawled his name on the sign-up sheet, then yelled to his lunch table on the other side of the cafeteria, "Hey Crenshaw, get Thompson and come check this out." Ryan Crenshaw was a 9.86 and Matt Thompson was a 9.98. They both came over and sat down at our table right next to Jason. Then the three of them started laughing and talking to me, Chloe, and Zoe like we were CCP girls or something. That's when I decided that, although an honest friend was nice, and I can hook you up with really cute guys friend was far better. And besides, Chloe and Zoe weren't actually lying. They were just over-embellishing some fabricated truths. Even though I was enjoying all the unexpected attention, there was an incessant gnawing deep down inside my gut that had me really worried. Why were the three most popular CCP guys suddenly sitting at a lunch table, flirting with Chloe, Zoe, and me, the three biggest dorks in the school? And what exactly did they want from us? Then I had to force myself to ponder the most intriguing and troubling question of all. Was my lucky pen going to melt from all the CCP guy hotness? Here are the three reasons why I was a little worried about my pen. Jason, the prep, Ryan, the jock, and Matt, the bad boy. Within minutes, 7 more guys had crossed our table and were passing around the sign-up sheet and boasting about how wicked their tat was going to be. I finally finished up Chloe's tattoo, and she said it was perfect. Reading is magical. Jason rolled up his sleeve and took Chloe's place. "Hey dudes, listen up. Mine's gonna say Guitar Hero." All the guys started slapping him on the back and giving him high fives and fist bumps. Sorry, quick delay there. "Hey dudes, listen up. Mine is gonna say Guitar Hero." All the guys started slapping him on the back and giving him high fives and fist bumps. He was acting all smug, like he was going to get a new sports car or something. Then a large crowd of girls gathered around the large crowd of guys to watch me work on Jason's tattoo. "Isn't she the new girl? I think her locker is right next to Mackenzie's. She's like the best artist in the entire school. Hey, I want to sign up. Give me the sheet next." "What's her name? Mickey, Ricky, or Vicky, I think? Whatever her name is, the girl's got skills. I'm so jealous, I can't even draw a stick figure. She's in my French class. Her name is Nikki Maxwell. I'd love to draw on Jason Feldman. He's hot. Oh my god, I'd give anything to be Nikki Maxwell." I was starting to feel like a pop star. The only CCPs not at our table were Mackenzie and her little group. They were glaring at us from across the cafeteria. By the end of lunch period, I had completed 7 tattoos. Chloe had collected 9 books, and Zoe had scheduled 11 people to get tattoos at lunch tomorrow. We had decided to call our new LSA project Ink Exchange, trade a book for a tattoo. In no time, the entire school was gossiping about it. Mrs. Peach said collecting books for charity was a wonderful idea, and she was really proud of us. Brandon even congratulated me and said he wanted to interview me for the school newspaper on Friday, since I was breaking news. He said he planned to photograph a few students showing off their new tattoos for the article. Now I can hardly wait for Friday to get here. There's a chance we might actually become good friends. But the absolute, most mind-blowing thing about all of this is that Chloe, Zoe, and I started the school day as LSA dorks and ended it as CCP divas. How cool is that? Tuesday, October 1st. Tattoos, 17 today. 24 total. Books, 34 today, 43 total. This tattoo craze has really caught on at WCD. I did 11 more during lunch, and most of the CCPs sat at our table to watch. It was pretty cool hanging out with them, and they were not mean or snotty like we thought they'd be. I guess it was just a matter of getting to know them better. Surprisingly, I ended up doing another 6 tattoos like I was on LSA duty. It seemed like everyone and their mother was getting library passes during 5th hour homeroom and pestering me. But Mrs. Peach said she didn't mind me not shelving books since I was working on our group project. So far, we've collected a total of 43 books for charity, which is fantastic. But it was mainly because Chloe decided to start charging 2 books per tattoo instead of 1. Zoe and I thought 1 book was perfectly fine, and we told her so. But Chloe said that since she was the director of book procurement, it was her decision, not ours, so it didn't matter what we thought. Now, how rude was that? I was like, okay, Chloe, we're supposed to be doing this as a group project. Who died and made you the queen? Chloe, the great queen of books. But I just said that in my head, so no one else heard it but me. So now we're getting 2 books for each tattoo, although it seems a bit greedy if you ask me. Wednesday, October 2nd. Tattoos, 19 today, 43 total. Books, 57 today, 100 total. I used to daydream about everyone at WCD knowing my name, and today, more than 24 people said hi to me before I even got to my first hour class. It made me happy to have so many new friends. In biology, we had to choose a lab partner and look at dust mites under a microscope. I thought for sure that Brandon was going to ask me to work with him, but 3 people interrupted him while he was trying to talk to me. They were all like, "Hey Nikki, let's work together so we could talk about my new tattoo design." But I didn't want to talk to people I hardly knew about tattoos. I wanted to have a really deep emotional conversation with Brandon about dust mites. In the end, I got stuck with Alexis Hamilton, the captain of the cheerleaders. The whole time we were working, all she did was blab about how they, the cheerleaders, needed me to come up with a super hot tattoo for the big game against Central, which, by the way, was on Friday. But I already knew this because I overheard them talking about it in front of my locker this morning. A few of them were waiting around for me after school hour, and they seemed pretty cranky. It wasn't like I was afraid of them or anything. I just jumped inside my locker because I can be a little shy at times. Me, being hunted down by an angry mob of cheerleaders. Hey, where'd she go? Anyway, I told Alexis that everyone had to sign up with Zoe first, but she said Zoe had a waiting list of 149 people through next Wednesday, and she needed the tats right away since it was kind of an emergency. Alexis said that she had already donated 3 books for each tattoo to Chloe, and Chloe was authorizing the squad to be placed at the top of the waiting list. So now it was 3 books? I told Alexis that since Zoe was director of scheduling and Chloe was director of book procurement, she should probably just ignore Chloe. Then Alexis got an attitude about the whole thing and refused to talk to me or help write our lab report on dust mites. Talk about a cruddy lab partner. But what really upset me was that Zoe had scheduled 149 people without asking me first. I have a French test on Friday and a geometry test next Monday, and I'm barely pulling a C in each of those classes. How am I supposed to study if I'm staying up past midnight every night designing tats for all these people? And I haven't even had time to eat lunch for the past 2 days. Then, as I was leaving class, Samantha Gates stopped me to say how much she loved her tat of Justin Timberlake. She said all her friends in the drama club wanted one too. She invited me to hang out with them after school on Friday, and I told her I'd let her know. But how can I have a social life when I have to draw tattoos 24/7? Thursday, October 3rd. Tattoos, 33 today, 76 total. Books, 99 today, 199 total. I had a really cruddy day today. It seems that all Chloe, Zoe, and everyone else cares about is tattoos. I came to school early and did 9. Then I did 14 at lunch and another 10 during library. That's 33 tattoos. Then I overheard Zoe tell Chloe behind my back that I worked slower than a constipated snail in an ice storm. And I needed to speed it up since she now had 216 people on the waiting list for next week. I was so not doing 216 tattoos in 1 week. And I told Zoe that right to her face, in a really friendly way. Then Chloe wanted to know why I told Alexis to ignore her. She said that, since the cheerleaders had a big game, she thought they should be put in the top of the list for tomorrow. That's when Zoe said, as the director of scheduling, that the decision was hers alone and she didn't care what Chloe thought. which was the exact same thing Chloe had said to us a few days ago. Then Mrs. Peach came over and asked us to please lower our voices because we were, after all, in a library. But I knew better. It wasn't a library. It was a wicked tattoo sweatshop. Me feeling very miserable. Friday, October 4th. Today's tattoos, a big fat 0. Today's books, a big fat 0. Why? First of all, Chloe and Zoe were mad because I didn't come to school early and they had 17 people waiting for tattoos. Well, excuse me, but I had a French test today that I had to study for. Then, at lunch, there were 25 people waiting, but instead of sitting at table 9 and helping me, Chloe and Zoe sat at the CCP table on the other side of the cafeteria. I could see them giggling and acting all flirty with Jason, Ryan, and Matt while I was supposed to be working my butt off like Cinderella or somebody. But I nearly freaked when I saw Mackenzie give Chloe and Zoe invitations to her rescheduled birthday party for next Saturday. They were pink envelopes with big white satin bows tied around them, just like the one she had given me, and then taken back when she uninvited me. Chloe and Zoe were acting all happy and sucking up to Mackenzie, even though they knew she hated my guts. So I did the most mature and rational thing possible under the circumstances. I quit. If I have to draw one more tattoo, I'm going to vomit. I thought Chloe and Zoe were my real friends, but now I can see that they were just using me all along to earn that trip to New York City for National Library Week. How could they do this to me? Then Brandon came up to my locker all smiley and said he wanted to interview me for the newspaper after school, but I told him to just forget it because my tattoo career was over. He asked me if I was okay, and I said, yeah, it's all good, I just need to find some new friends. He just blinked and looked kind of confused. Then he shrugged and walked away. So now it's like Chloe, Zoe, and Brandon are all tripping. I hope the 3 of them have a blast at Mackenzie's little party, since they all got invited and I didn't. But it wasn't like I was jealous of them or anything. I mean, how totally juvenile would that be? Saturday, October 5th. I had the most horrible nightmare. It was like something out of the Twilight Zone. Mackenzie was spitting bugs at me, and all I could hear was the 5th hour bell ringing and ringing. It was like everyone was out to get me. Thank goodness I finally woke up. That's when I realized it was morning and the telephone was ringing, not the 5th hour bell. I dragged myself out of bed and answered the phone on my desk. It was my grandma calling to tell us she was planning to come visit for 2 weeks at the end of the month. I told her my parents must already be out or something running errands since they hadn't answered the phone. Then she asked me how I was doing, and I told her not so good. I said I was thinking about transferring out of my school and asked her what she would do if she were me. She said it was not so much about the school I chose, but whether I chose to be a chicken or a champion. Which, of course, had absolutely nothing to do with anything. Since Grandma was talking out of her head again, I told her that I loved her, but that I had to go because someone was at the door. Then I hung up. I wasn't lying to her because, unfortunately, Brianna and Miss Penelope were at the bedroom door. Miss Penelope wanted me to watch her do a medley of songs from High School Musical 3 in the stylings of Amy Winehouse. I had been awake for less than 3 minutes and had already been forced to deal with my senile grandma, my hyperactive sister, and a wacky puppet. I climbed back into bed, pulled the covers up over my head, and screamed for 2 whole minutes. So many freaks and not enough circuses. Monday, October 7th. Please, please, please make all of this be not really happening to me. Today has been the worst day of my entire life. It's all started Sunday night when I was sitting at my desk doing review problems for my geometry test. My mom came into my room around midnight to tell me she was leaving the house extra early in the morning to chaperone a field trip for Brianna's class. Nikki, since you have a test and the art competition tomorrow, it's really important that you set your alarm clock so you don't oversleep in the morning. I was like, thanks, Mom, good night. I really did plan to set my clock as soon as I finished my geometry problems, but the next thing I knew, it was morning, and I was still sitting at my desk with my geometry book open. I just about had a heart attack because, according to my clock, it was 7:36 a.m. on Monday, and my first hour class started at 8. The only logical explanation was that I must have fallen asleep while studying at my desk, me getting my snooze on and drooling all over my geometry book. My day was off to a very bad start. I had overslept, I didn't have a ride to school, My painting needed to be turned in for the art show, and my geometry test started in less than 24, no, make that 23 minutes. Even the weather perfectly matched my miserable mood. It was dark, overcast, and pouring rain. I was fighting back my tears, and suddenly I heard the low rumble of our garage door opening. I ran to my bedroom window and spotted a flicker of bright headlights. It was my dad, and he was leaving the house. I rushed around my room in a panic, trying to get dressed before he pulled out. I jumped into my jeans and slid on my jacket. When I couldn't find one of my shoes, I decided to just change into my gym shoes once I got to school. I grabbed my backpack and my painting and dashed downstairs like a maniac. By the time I got out the front door, my dad was already pulling into the street. I ran down our driveway, waving my arms and screaming hysterically, "Wait, Dad, wait! I overslept! I need a ride to school!" Only, I couldn't run very fast because I was loaded down with my backpack and painting. Of course, my bunny slippers didn't help the situation either. Unfortunately, my dad didn't see me. So I just stood there in our driveway in the pouring rain, feeling really, really cruddy. I couldn't believe I was going to miss the art show, receive an F on my geometry test, and get an unexcused absence all on the same day. I got this large, painful lump in my throat, and I felt like crying again. But my dad must have finally noticed me in his rearview mirror or something, because suddenly he slammed on his brakes. I took off running down the street toward the van as fast as I could. As I climbed in, Dad chuckled. "Does Sleeping Beauty need a ride to school, or are you waiting for your prince?" I ignored his corny little joke and collapsed into the back seat of the van. I was soaking wet, but I felt happy and relieved. All was not lost, yet, anyway. But I also felt really anxious. For the first time this year, I was riding to school in the Roachmobile. And if anybody saw me getting out of it, I was going to absolutely die. By the time we pulled up to the front of the school, the rain had finally stopped. Thank goodness, the only other vehicle around was a large truck with some men in uniform carrying in tall flat panels. I guessed that they were displays for the art show. I thanked Dad for the ride, grabbed my painting, and climbed out of the van. Just as I was about to slam the door shut, he waved and pointed to my backpack on the floor. "Hey, I think you're forgetting something." I carefully set my painting on the ground and leaned it against the side of the van. Then I climbed in and grabbed my backpack. "I think I'm all set now. Thanks, Dad." I waved and slammed the van door shut. I could not believe that I had actually made it to school in one piece with 6 minutes to spare. And not a single soul had spotted me getting out of the Roachmobile, which was a miracle in and of itself. Then I noticed a girl wearing matching Burberry raincoat, hat, and boots climbing out of the back of the truck parked in front of us. "Hey, careful with that, buddy. It's a piece of art, not a piece of plywood," she snarled at one of the men. I froze and thought about trying to duck back into the van to hide until she left, but it was too late. Mackenzie's mouth dropped open. At first she had a look of shock on her face, as she stared at me, my van, and Max, yes, the roach. Then her lips spread into a really evil grin. "Wait a minute. You're the Maxwell, like Maxwell's bug extermination? And what is that hideous brown thing on the top of your van? A dead horse? Let me guess, it's supposed to be a matching set with those 2 dead bunnies on your feet?" I just glared at her and didn't say a word. Okay, Mackenzie was the undisputed winner if we were competing for richest snob, cutest designer wardrobe, most friends, coolest bedroom, or biggest house. But we weren't. Avant-garde art was all about the pure, unadulterated talent which Mackenzie could not buy with her parents' money. It was her Fab Forever fashion illustrations against my watercolor. And that's when I realized, I finally remembered, that my painting was on the van. I spun around and lunged to grab it just as my dad was pulling out, but it was too late. I gasped and watched in horror as the van tires slowly crushed glass, antique wood, frame, my hopes and my dreams. It was shockingly painful to see the unique expression of me that had taken more than 130 hours to capture in watercolor so brutally destroyed in a matter of seconds. But the torn, twisted, and splintered mess on the side of the curb was not nearly as ugly as Mackenzie's final insult. "Oh no, was that your little art project? Too bad. Hey, just throw some bugs on it and enter it as a modern art piece called Maxwell's Bugs on Garbage." Then she cackled like a witch and sashayed off. I just hated when Mackenzie sashayed. I watched sadly as the Roachmobile turned the corner and disappeared down the road. For the first time in my life, I wished I were inside its warm and dry, speeding away. Away from Mackenzie. Away from friends who were not really my friends. Away from Westchester County Day Middle School. I didn't fit in at this place, and I was sick and tired of trying. I sat down on the side of the curb, next to the pieces of my painting, and cried. The rain started to pour again, but I didn't care. I had been sitting there for ever, trying to sort things out inside my head, when I noticed it had stopped raining. On me, anyway. Then I recognized that faint aroma of Snuggle fabric softener, Axe body spray, and red licorice. I looked up and was surprised and slightly embarrassed to see Brandon standing there, holding an umbrella over me. You okay? I didn't answer. Then he extended his hand. I just looked at it and sighed. If I sat out on the curb in the cold rain much longer, I'd probably end up dying of pneumonia, which, by the way, didn't sound like such a bad thing. I grabbed a hold of his hand, and he slowly pulled me up off the wet curb. I could not believe we were doing this stupid little scene all over again. How pathetic. I rolled my eyes, sniffed, and wiped my runny nose on the back of my hand. I was not going to let him see me cry. Both of us just stood there, not saying anything. He was staring at me, and I was staring at the ground. Suddenly, Brandon dug deep into his pocket and fished out a wrinkled-looking piece of tissue. I think you have something on your face. Probably snot, I said sarcastically, and snatched the tissue from his hand. Yeah, probably, he said, trying hard not to smile. I dig those shoes. They're not shoes, they're bunny slippers. I was in a really big hurry this morning, okay? I blew my nose at him loudly and angrily. So, it looks like you had a little accident with your project. I wouldn't call it little. Well, if it makes you feel better, Mackenzie is entering some life-size paper dolls. I'd say your painting is still better than hers, even in 27 pieces with mud smeared on it and a few worms. A mischievous grin slowly spread across Brandon's face. Come on, everyone knows you have more talent in your smallest burp than— Yeah, I know, I said, interrupting him and blushing uncontrollably. I hated when he did that to me. Okay, even though I was mad at the world, I had to admit, this whole thing was a little funny in a really bent sort of way. Finally, I smiled at Brandon and he winked at me. He was such a dork, but in a good way. He had a slightly weird sense of humor and was friendly and a little shy all at the same time. And, unlike me, he didn't obsess about what other people thought about him. I think that was probably the coolest thing about him. Thanks for the umbrella. Hey, no prob. Then we both walked to the front entrance. Even though the building was warm, I felt really chilled. My slippers were soaked, and it seemed like I was wearing sponges dipped in ice water on my feet. I need to get my shoes out of my locker and then go to the office to call my dad. Hopefully he can drop off some dry clothes. So, I'll walk you to the office if you don't mind. My class is on the way. As Brandon and I made our way down the hall, some people stopped and stared, while others pointed and laughed, but I just ignored them. I knew I looked pretty crazy with every step I took. My bunny slippers went slouchy squeak and left small puddles of water behind me. When I finally got to my locker, there was a large crowd of kids gathered around it. At first I thought they were there for tattoos, but everyone quickly scattered. Then I saw what they were looking at. Bug Girl. It felt like someone had punched me in my stomach so hard I could hardly breathe. I covered my mouth and tried to blink back my tears for what seemed like the 10th time this morning. Someone had written on my locker in what appeared to be ravishing red hot cinnamon twist lip gloss, which, by the way, was Mackenzie's favorite. I'm really sorry, Brandon stammered. Only a real loser would do something as mean and stupid as— But I didn't hear the rest of what he said. I turned around, pushed my way through the crowded hallways, and went straight to the office to call my parents. I couldn't take it anymore. I was leaving Westchester County Day Middle School and never coming back. Alright, we are a couple minutes over, so I will stop there at the end of that entry. I will be back again tomorrow for the last reading this week. I will not be making an upload on Friday, just tomorrow. And we actually should be able to finish this tomorrow. So by next week, we should have a new book. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I hope that you are staying safe and well among the craziness. See you next time.